Welcome to This Explainer. Right now, we're going straight after the ultimate villain of our daily lives, something that honestly frustrates every single one of us: forgetting. I mean, we spend so much time learning, reading, and absorbing all this information, but how much of it actually sticks? Well, today we're breaking down the science of why our memories slip away. And way more importantly, we're arming you with 8 proven cognitive tools to fight back. Let's get into it. Think about it for a second. Have you ever walked into a room with a super clear purpose, only to instantly blank on why you're even there? Or maybe you've sat down for a huge exam, stared at the paper, and felt all those carefully studied facts literally just vanish into thin air. It's incredibly frustrating, right? But listen, you're not alone. It's actually just how the human brain is wired. Which brings us to the core issue, the problem of forgetting. You see, forgetting isn't a personal failing. It's not a lack of attention. Clinically speaking, it is the loss of the ability to recall or recognize something learned earlier without the help of the original stimulus. Basically, it's a breakdown in retrieval. The information, it might still be perfectly archived somewhere in the back of your brain, but your ability to pull it forward into your consciousness without a hint, that connection has completely failed. So why does that connection fail? Well, there are actually 7 distinct culprits here. It ranges from an inadequate impression, meaning, you just didn't focus quite enough initially, all the way to physiological issues like a brain injury. And right in the middle, we battle simple lapses of time, emotional disturbances, repression, alteration of the stimulus condition, and even the interference of new learning. That last one is wild. It's where the new things you learn actually overwrite the old stuff. But let's look closer at that lapse of time factor, famously known as the forgetting curve. This concept was pioneered by a researcher named Ebbinghaus. He brilliantly mapped out what we call the drop-off. Our memory absolutely falls off a cliff in the first few hours and days after learning something new. It is a steep, rapid decline. But the good news? Over time, that decline gradually levels off. If you can manage to push information past that initial crazy drop-off, it actually tends to stick around. And to help you push past that drop-off, we are introducing your new best friends, mnemonic devices. The word mnemonic comes directly from a Greek word meaning aid to memory. And I want to be clear, these are not just cheap party tricks. These are highly effective, scientifically backed devices that help us remember information by structuring it so our brains can actually hold on to it. So let's cover 8 of these proven techniques to completely defeat that forgetting curve. We are going to kick things off with visual memory techniques. Visual methods are incredibly powerful because they rely on creating distinct spatial mental images. Our first one is the method of loci. Loci is just the Latin word for locations or places. This is such a brilliant encoding technique. Here is exactly how you do it. Step 1, mentally walk through a highly familiar place, like maybe your childhood home or your daily commute. Step 2, creatively associate the new items you need to memorize with specific locations along that path. So if you need to remember a grocery list, you might picture a giant carton of milk spilling all over your front porch and a massive loaf of bread just sitting right there on your living room sofa. Next up, we have the peg word method. This technique creates a clever association between numbers and rhyming words, turning them into mental pegs to literally hang items on. Think about the rhyming pairs. 1 sounds like gun, 2 sounds like shoe, 3 is tree, all the way down to 9, red wine, and 10, pen. So if the 9th item on your to-do list is, say, paying a credit card bill, vividly imagine spilling red wine all over that bill. It creates an unshakable, weirdly specific link in your mind. Now, if visual spaces aren't really your style, let's explore wordplay and rhymes. We've got 2 distinct types of the initial letter strategy here. First up are acronyms, where you use the first letters of a group of words to build a single artificial word. Think Vibgyor for the colors of the rainbow. Then, on the other side, we have acrostics. Instead of a single word, you craft an entire memorable sentence. Any musician out there absolutely knows every good boy does fine to recall the musical notes E, G, B, D, and F. And of course, you can never underestimate the sheer power of simple rhyming. When you convert important points into a bouncy rhyming verse, you give your brain a predictable rhythmic pattern to follow. Honestly, it's the exact reason we can belt out lyrics to songs from decades ago, but completely forget what we just had for breakfast. The cadence makes the information incredibly sticky, and frankly, it's just fun to say out loud. Now, what about those exceptionally difficult, uncommon, or just entirely unfamiliar words?
Maybe you're learning a foreign language or trying to survive a medical terminology class. Well, the keyword method is a total lifesaver. It combines sound and imagery in 2 really simple steps. First, you find a familiar word that sounds like the new target word. That becomes your keyword. Second, you create a wild mental image associating that keyword with the actual definition. Let's actually see this in action.
Try it with me right now using the word dorsal. The definition of dorsal is the upper side or back of an animal. Okay, step 1. A familiar-sounding keyword for dorsal is door. Step 2. The image. I want you to picture a giant tiger walking backwards through a door that is somehow attached to its back. I know, it's completely bizarre, right? But that is exactly why it works. The more absurd the image is, the harder it is for your brain to let it go.
Finally, let's talk about building long-term memory. How do we lock down massive amounts of everyday information, like phone numbers, passwords, or even entire speeches, for the long haul? We use a technique called chunking. Imagine a massive, intimidating string of 10 isolated digits, like 98473628110. Your short-term memory simply can't handle that much raw data at once. But by grouping those exact same numbers into 3 smaller chunks, 984, 736, and 2810, you drastically lower your cognitive load. You literally go from remembering 10 things to just 3. It's incredibly efficient. Beyond chunking, you can also tap into storytelling with a narrative chaining method. This is where you make up a totally meaningful, or maybe ridiculously goofy, story that links all your items together in a flowing sequence. Our brains absolutely love a narrative. It connects isolated facts into a tight web. And lastly, we cannot ignore simple repetition. Consistent practice, repeating information aloud, or writing it down multiple times is still one of the absolute most reliable ways to physically transfer data from your short-term buffer into permanent long-term memory. Well, we've officially given you the tools to defeat the forgetting curve. But before we wrap up this explainer, I have a challenge for you. Can you use the narrative chaining method right now to craft a creative story and lock all 8 of these techniques into your brain forever? Picture yourself walking through a familiar place, hanging a chunk of pegs on a rhyming door. You get the idea. Put your brain to the test right now and stop letting great information slip away.